Well, as a result of changes to the National Policy Statement for Freshwater Management, almost all farms in New Zealand will need to have a freshwater plan. One of the concerns voiced by the industry has been there are not enough people with the necessary training to make that requirement a reality. Massey University has created some short courses to meet that growing demand with training in that area, and you can read more about that in this week's Farmers Weekly. A gentleman I know who has been actively involved for many years in supporting farmers evaluating the change coming at them and implementing those plans is Simon Glennie, who joins us now. Simon is a consultant at AbacusBio. Welcome back, Simon. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us.
Thank you, Sarah. Yeah.
And before we crack into it, we're talking about beds tonight. And for those listening on podcast won't be able to see that, is that a COVID edition?
I guess you could call it a COVID edition. It's been here for nearly a year now. So, I'm really lazy. It adds another few minutes to every week, Sarah. So I don't have to shave every day. But yeah, it's. I don't know if it's there to stay though.
Is it? Yeah. So it's not becoming a part of what defines the Simon Glennie look now?
I don't know if anything will define that at all, Sarah.
But in terms of Simon Glennie's experience, we're talking about the article Training Targets Farm Freshwater Plans in this week's Farmers Weekly, and very much talking about the Massey University courses. But firstly, can you paint the picture for our listeners and viewers on the scale of the knowledge gap we have in New Zealand to progress the requirements of this National Environmental Standard?
Well, I think it's probably significant, Sarah. It's hard to say. As a consultant and working with farmers in the industry, I guess part of our business is that we need to get paid for what we do. We need to charge by the hour. So our role and my role in supporting farmers and our role in supporting farmers has been really production based, because of that requirement to make money. Now, this whole environment side is really driven by compliance. So so really helping farmers in a different way. And there's a lot of uncertainty still about what's coming and how the rules will be finally put in place and interpreted. There's a lot of noise about farm environment plans. And really, I think once that's all sorted out, then we'll figure out what the knowledge gap is. And one of the key areas, I think, where there is a knowledge gap is that you might have people that understand the legislation and understand the requirements for farmers, but then they won't understand the farm system. So they don't understand the pressure that's coming. And what can be achieved and what's realistic in terms of change and the management of that change on different farms. So there's certainly, I can see a massive knowledge gap in that area. Examples are we see overseer models now coming through the industry where the stock reconciliations are patently wrong, but they have been done by people that have been trained in overseer, but they haven't been able to pick up that the stock reconciliation is wrong. So that farm, whatever's been modelled, is not what is actually happening on the farm. And it does matter. It makes a big difference to the outputs in that model. So there are examples there. I guess it'll take some time to support these changes and some money as well. And I guess that's where farmers are expecting that, hang on, these requirements are not just for us, they are for the whole country and the industry. Who's paying for this?
I spent some time yarning to farmers at AgFest and a variety of different farming systems between dairy and beef, and no one was the same in how they can see it affecting their business, from cropping, pugging, through to fencing, and simply so therefore a blanket rule, if we took it down to a regional side of it on the coast, still wouldn't even help. It's on a case-by-case basis. And so therefore providing short courses, and absolutely thank you so much to Massey for doing this, where can we teach the variations in being able to pick up around farm systems?
Oh boy, that's a difficult ask, and I think there will be a need for some collaboration because it's a very difficult package to get in one person. In fact, it's nigh on impossible, I guess. So having somebody do a farm plan on its own, without knowledge of the farm systems, without listening and maybe getting some input from other people, would be probably a farm plan that's destined to fail. So, and I guess it's all very well getting the knowledge, and I think the places like Massey obviously are where we're going to get that, where we're going to bridge that knowledge gap. But I think there'll be a need for a little collaboration within that to get really effective plans.
When you're talking about funding, this particular funding has been provided by the New Zealand Fertiliser Association. Mm-hmm. So when you talk about, extension from our fertiliser companies and our rural supply companies, they are the most engaged on farm on a regular basis to understand the individual needs. Is there a way that collaboration could happen between those two parties and groups, and it's not to the benefit commercially of anybody in those groups either?
Yes, well, I think, the fertiliser companies are largely still cooperatives, so they should be working for their shareholders or the farmers, largely. And I think that's so, and also there's models there within their fertiliser companies where they are doing farm overseer modelling and looking at the environmental side of things, and they're charging by the hour for that, so it's not something that it comes through their fertiliser. We've just cut out there. So it's not something that's coming through their the fertiliser payments from the farmers. It's actually separate from it. Yeah. So it's been recognised as such. So that's happening on the fertiliser side. And the odd farmer's getting a really big shock when they get a bill for quite a substantial amount for their farm plan. That's and they get a little bit of a shock about that. But it's a commercial model. Farmers are engaging these people that are getting paid by the hour to do this work. So that's the reality that's coming. And as far as the farm supply companies go, I think that's a hard ask. It's a very different set of skills. I've done some of the short courses at Massey on nutrient management, great courses, and I really enjoyed it. I've done some chemistry at university level. I got back into that. I enjoyed it. It's something that, not many people like soil science, but I tend to quite enjoy that side of things. But it's not for everybody. And training those people at the farm service level up into that level of understanding, I think that's going to be a difficulty. It's a particular type of person we need in that space. And also, generally, those people don't necessarily fully understand the farm systems we're dealing with. But look, I think like that collaborative approach, it's going to be a team of many that are going to be required to end up with effective farm plans.
Yeah, and your experience with RMPP groups and catchment groups and your work with beef and lamb, that is in a very, very effective way of being able to spread knowledge. Is that not the right place for it?
Yes, so certainly farmers have taken up the opportunity to skill up in those areas, but a lot of the groups I've dealt with haven't done much work on the environment side of things within those groups. I guess they're playing a wait and see games, not game. It's actually probably a valid strategy to wait until they know what they need to do and then act. Because trying to front foot this might not be the best strategy. Certainly, what we need is really clear guidance about what is required, and then take some measured steps to achieve that. So I think that's and I'm absolutely certain that the farmer groups that you speak of, and they're pan-industry groups, are a great way for farmers to learn what is required from a point of view of being able to engage experts to help with that, but also to actually travel and see what's happening in other regions and how other farmers are planning to bridge the gap and make progress on the environmental standards.
So we're talking about the Massey University short courses, Introduction to New Zealand Farm Systems, a 6-week course. But in carrying on from what you're saying is an online resource that will guide students through the development of a desktop farm environment plan. What sort of work is AbacusBio doing to have engagement at this level with tertiary providers on how we can do this better?
Well, probably Abacus is a slightly different model. And we're looking at the moment how we engage directly with farmers and farmer groups on the environmental side. But equally, we're also doing some quite high-level advisory work, at industry level around greenhouse gas and whatnot, and some commercial products in the space. But in terms of the tertiary industry, not a lot at the moment that I'm aware of. But I'm not involved as closely with the hierarchy at Abacus that I maybe once was.
Do you believe in everything that you've learnt and you're supporting farmers? Do we need to actually take a step back? And I've heard multiple times, let's bring climate change requirements, ETS, water, and all of these things together to make it a bit of an overview, a holistic plan of the farm, as opposed to all of these individual moving targets.
Yeah, too many silos, I guess, and I think that the overarching approach is a good one. I think the short answer is yes, Sarah. I think we do need to bring them together. That's part of the land and environment plan is all of those aspects of it. It's not just a freshwater plan. It's not just a fertility and fertilizer impact on the environment kind of mitigation plan. It will bring carbon in time as well as biodiversity as well.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Simon Glennie is a farm consultant with AbacusBio, and it's great to bring some practicality around these short courses. But again, we do have to congratulate Massey University on making progress in that, because as Simon said there, this particular challenge is many hands make light work.
This is Sarah's Country.